I believe everyone who used to our monthly webinars has noticed that today's event is not called Ask Julie Anything. It is because today we are hosting a special event with our co-owner and formulator. As always, Julie will be here, but today she will be talking about her cancer research. Over the past 5 years, Julie has been investigating canine cancer and exploring natural substances that target and kill cancer cells. The first phase of this research is now complete and has been published in two peer-reviewed medical journals. And it's nothing short of amazing. Whether you are curious about the findings or eager to learn more about this vital work, you know the drill. Don't be shy and ask Julie anything about her cancer research. So before we start, I just want to remind you about some housekeeping rules. Please switch your chat to everyone so we can all join in the conversations. Use the Q&A box below to ask your questions. We will answer them in order on a first come, first served basis. And we will do our best to answer all of them tonight. And we also have another request. Please limit your questions to just one so we can answer as many as possible and help as many people as possible too. We are doing our best and we count on your cooperation. Thank you so much. But just another observation on that. Today, Julie will not be answering the regular Ask Julie Anything questions. We will be only answering questions related to the cancer research. Thanks for your understanding on this. And if you have any questions that is not related to today's topic, you can always send them to our customer service team. They will be amazing. They are amazing and they will be helping you. And the most important thing of all, this session provides a judgment-free space with only the health and happiness of our animals and the planet being our core goal. So without further ado, I want to call you Julie, and please tell us everything about this amazing research.
I'm just I normally don't look at the chats because I find it really distracting, right? But this time I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. I just literally told my team that I was going to do this like 10 minutes ago. So what I'd really love, because I have my chat open, is for everybody out there. I'd like you to quickly put in the chat how many people have actually experienced cancer with their dogs, how many people are going through it maybe right now, and how many people are going through, scared, like really scared that's gonna happen. Yeah, holy man. Wow. Ugh. Okay. Holy man. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's just keep going and I'm gonna start talking. Um, so I think it's important. First of all, everyone that's on this, and everyone that's registered can get this slide presentation. So the slide presentation that I'm going to be showing you, it's pretty high tech. It's quite scientific. Can be a bit boring in a way. And I feel like I don't know how many people know me, how many people that I'm talking to right now have been following me or following my career or following ABA. But I sat for like a while the last few days and I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to bring you this cancer research. But what else can I bring you that might be helpful? What else can what can I do that's different than everything that you're reading or different than everything that you're experiencing? How can I bring even a little bit of more maybe information, or not even more, but different information, um, to this world of cancer in not just our dogs, but cancer in cats, cancer in horses, cancer in people, cancer in general. And for people that don't know me, I had I had vet hospitals in British Columbia, and I saw way too much cancer. Like, because I was an alternative clinic, I was an integrative clinic. I had people flying their dogs in from Switzerland to see me to help try to help them deal with cancer. So I think maybe I even saw more than I would normally have seen even in a regular practice, because people were chemotherapy wasn't working, or people that didn't subscribe to chemotherapy, or for people that they were doing everything and it just wasn't working, or they just weren't going to do it. I saw the whole gamut. And uh I feel like, and you know what, I'm just going to be super honest with you guys. I am going to look at my notes because I'm super emotional right now. Um, and I made some notes because I really wanted to talk to you from my heart and make sure that I said everything that I wanted to say to everybody. And, you know, you guys know that we are a formula, like we're a supplement company. And I was thinking, people are probably thinking, like, why? Why are they doing cancer research? Like, since when do supplement companies do research? And the reason that we're doing research, not just on cancer, but just I do a lot of my own research and development for ABA for people that don't know. And the reason is because I've dedicated my life to animals, and I shouldn't even say that. Like, I am just completely and utterly connected to all animals and nature. So for me to even say I've dedicated my life to it is just ridiculous, kind of. But because I haven't dedicated my life to it, it is my life. It is just who I am, what I am, and what I'm going to be, and why I think I'm even here. So um, my goal to this cancer project, my goal when I have my clinic, my goal with my rescue farm, my goal when I'm looking at the environment and the animals that are affected in the environment is I have a really big problem with suffering. I've had to talk to therapists about it. I can't watch. I have a very hard time watching anything suffer, especially an animal, because we can't talk to them. We can't explain things to them. So my biggest goal is to try to reduce and alleviate as much suffering as I possibly can. I would say the next is to try and derail, prevent chronic disease, things that cause suffering, cancer, and all kinds of autoimmune diseases, from allergies to whatever causes suffering. And then the next thing, especially with this cancer research project, is to be able to extend life, but have that life. Now I'm going to get really emotional. Have that life be everything that it can be. So when I say extend life, it's not to keep them here longer, but to keep them in a place where they are feeling amazing, that they're living their best life, they have a really good quality of life. To me, that was really important, and it's something that I was able to do often in my vet hospital. Was, animals would come in with cancer, and I would be working with them, and people would be like, I'm taking the dogs to the park. And people are saying to me, "Are you sure your dog has the right diagnosis? Because it doesn't seem like it's got cancer." Um, that made me happier than I can even than I can even say. So when you think about, why am I doing this? Uh, why did they do so much research and development? Why don't they just buy ingredients that have already got? And I do that, but I just I wake up every day and I work with these rescue animals here, and every day it's like, How do I do more? There has to be more to it. So what I wanted to say is I want to, and you guys, I am still have the chat up because I do really want to listen to some of what your emotional, how you feel emotionally. But I want to talk to you, if it's okay, about my idea of cancer because I look at cancer differently than a lot of people. And I'm always hearing like we have to kill cancer. We're going to fight cancer. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And it makes, I know a lot of people where they feel like, it's just going to jump out of the corner and, and attack us. And it's this thing where we feel like we have to be on guard. And um, I don't know if you guys know who Zach Bush is, but I've been, following him for a while too. And he said something really interesting a long time ago and so did actually a shaman that I worked with in Vancouver, where our bodies and our dogs' bodies and our bodies in general, the earth, the plants, the planet is programmed to survive. That's what we're programmed to do. And not just survive, but thrive. And how I look at cancer is that yes, the cells do some pretty wacky things and kind of go rogue on us. But I feel like there's a lot before that. And there's a lot of stuff that our bodies and our animals' bodies show us that are sort of precursors to chronic disease. And I feel like we continue to ignore it. We continue to ignore it, and the cells die, and the cells get attacked, and free radicals scavenge, and the pro-inflammatory cytokines and all of this chronic inflammation is just so strong and so prevalent in the body that we're not doing enough to to support our bodies to do what it can do, which is fight cancer. Our bodies can recover from cancer cells. Our animals' bodies can so long as they're in a state where we're supporting the body to not be in this crazy inflamed state and this constant state of disarray. When a cancer cell is produced or when cancer starts to develop, the initiation process starts to develop, the body can restart that. It knows how to deal with it. It knows how to rebalance itself. It really does. The cells can do that. But then what happens if we're not paying attention to the cells, the healthy cells that are dying that we can pay attention to from a preventative place? The body then goes, oh my gosh, okay, well, now we are going to have to just go. It's kind of like they're like, we can't do anything anymore. We just have to keep producing cells. And those overproduction of cells and those cells going rogue because they don't know what else to do, they are just wired to survive. Almost to me, accidentally or like as a mistake or as something that's gone array based on just trying to survive. So if we look at it from a perspective of a perspective of what can we do and what can we support our pets, ourselves, our children, our planet in living a life and in taking things that help to derail environmental pollution, the things that are in our food, the things that we are coming in contact on a regular basis. How do we do that? So that's my goal. That's what I strive for. That's what I look at all the time. It's like, yes, I want to find ways of working with cancer, like when an animal actually has cancer or a person has cancer. I want to look at that. But I want to, as much as that, I want to look at how do I prevent suffering the most is prevention, right? Is like I would rather try to prevent thousands and thousands of animals from getting chronic disease or getting cancer or getting really, really sick and suffering than I would actual treatment. Saying that, if I can find a treatment or if I can be part of someone finding a treatment that extends the life but doesn't have the side effects of regular um, uh, chemotherapy and cancer treatments would be an absolute dream for me because there are going to be animals and people getting cancer. It's all there is to it. So if we can if science can work together and find a way of producing something that doesn't have the side effects, that's a huge win, like a massive win. So I'm going to now start start the start the slide presentation.
Presentation.
And yeah, it's good. You're going to have to keep helping me out here. And the reason that I'm so upset is I'm going to have to share my screen, right? Okay. So the reason that I'm so upset is that I lost my dog on New Year's Eve. And he's been sick for a year and a half. And, um, very hard to diagnose what was going on. We knew it was cancer. We thought it was prostate cancer. And he almost died a year and a half ago. I took 3 weeks off of work and was with him and just basically completely embodied myself with that dog for 3 weeks because I did think he was going to die. And he didn't. And he lived another year and a half. And his life was incredible, like absolutely incredible, till about the last 3.5 weeks when he started showing signs of of pain. And we weren't really sure what it was. And, we did x-rays and had radiology stuff, and they thought it was his heart. And I kept wanting to x-ray his leg, but they couldn't x-ray his leg until I saw the cardiologist because they were scared to give him a general anesthetic. And the list went on and on and on. But anyways, make a very long story short, he I had to put him to sleep on quite quickly, happened within 24 hours. He had osteosarcoma, the main cancer cell that I wanted to look at Dell, that I am looking at researching, and he fractured his leg. That is what happened. So it was it was fast and furious with Henry, and Henry was fast and furious. He would have been what's today's the 8th. He would have been 12 yesterday. And he was the love of my life and my biggest support in everything that I did. So almost didn't do this lecture tonight, but I really felt that it's just too big. The fact that my own dog died of the main cancer cell that I'm looking at that I was most important to me to look at because it's such a horrible cancer. It is incredibly painful. The main way you treat it is you take the leg off, but by the time the leg is they're figuring out how to walk without a leg, it's in their lungs. Like it's just a brutal one. But I feel like Henry would want me to do this, and I feel like the fact that he lived a year and a half is unheard of. It's just unheard of, and I was using something similar to what I'm researching, but I wasn't thinking of osteosarcoma. I was thinking because he had a tumor in his prostate, so I was thinking soft tissue tumors and things like that. But I'll get into that a little bit more. But if I could provide every dog a year and a half of the life that Henry had for a year and a half, with cancer and this kind of cancer would be for me the biggest gift I could ever give anything. So, all right. So I am going to share my screen. Um, okay. You guys can see my screen.
Yeah, but
Uh,
we
yeah,
cannot see
I'm
you.
gonna
Okay.
put it into the um there we go.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Like I said, oops, hang on, I don't want it to do that. Why is it doing that? I want it to, let me just see if it's going to do that on its own. I want to be able to control when I'm changing it. All right, so we're going to get into this and you guys can answer questions. I have Jenna, one of our scientists in the background, and she can answer your questions. There's a lot of data. I'm going to try to make it as not boring as possible, but what I am going to do is I'm going to try to fly through it like I normally do. I'm going to try to go through it as fast as I can, pick out the pieces that I feel are the most important. You're going to get this slide presentation. You can go back in, you can read this research yourself so that you can, share it with people or ask us more questions later on, like, email us, whatever you want to do. But I am going to try to go through it fairly quickly. So, this lecture is dedicated to Henry and the celebration of his life. This for those people that don't know Henry. Um, he was an Old English sheepdog cross, uh, as tenacious as you could possibly get, as stoic as anything, as funny as anything, and like I said, the love of my life. Um, so, for the last 5 years, I've been working with researchers at Dalhousie University who are absolutely unbelievably brilliant. And I have to tell you, they have the patience of Job because they had to deal with me. I was like, why do we have to do it that way? And how come we can't do it that way? And if this happening, how come this isn't? I want to do this research with it because I want to be able to prevent it and blah, 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 blah. So I was a pain in the butt, absolutely. But what we wound up doing is we did actually wind up doing cancer research for people that don't know, and I didn't know, is very, very specific. And the reason it's so specific is because it's so important and because it has to be taken seriously. So I had to, for the first time in my life, adhere to what I had to do, which is what I did. I made sure that I did everything by the book, but then I started doing another research on top of it. So we did two different research sort of projects, and I'll talk to you about that at the end as well. So, yes, and it's ongoing research looking at canine cancer. The goal of the research has been to explore certain natural substances, namely chaga mushrooms and microalgae, which is phytoplankton, and how they work synergistically to kill cancer cells. The health benefits associated with chaga and microalgae are really compelling, and the review of scientific literature available led me to believe that these two ingredients could have synergistic health benefits when combined. I took this hypothesis to a professor, Dr. Vasantha, who is incredible and a very dear friend now, and has been incredibly supportive at Dalhousie, who's well known. He wasn't a friend of mine at the beginning. I didn't know him at all. He's well known, but he's well known for his research in the health benefits of natural products. He's in the natural food science area of Dalhousie. So together we developed a plan to evaluate the potential of health benefits of chaga and microalgae combinations. And guys, this is where we really need to understand what this means. Like we're talking specific combinations, and that's what we're going to get into. So today I'm going to talk about the first portion of the research, which is complete and has been published in two peer-reviewed medical journals, which was incredibly exciting for me. And for Dalhousie too, I think, because it's a mammalian study, and I'll get into that in a minute as well and what that means. So, chaga mushrooms are grown on birch trees for people that don't know in colder climates like Europe and Canada or Northern Europe, Canada, colder areas in the US. They've been used for centuries, though, and I mean centuries in traditional medicine, various cultures, primarily to support the immune system, improve overall health, and treat cancer. Chaga mushrooms contain a variety of compounds that have potential health benefits, including antioxidants which have specifically uh, phenolic compounds that help neutralize free radicals and reduce oxidative stress. Beta glucans, which is a type of polysaccharide, specifically as a soluble dietary fiber that's been shown to help stimulate the immune system, and triterpenoids, specifically. Uh, but I can never say this word in here. I knew I was going to do this. Uh, Bachulic. No, see? How do I say it? Jenna, how do
Betulinic
I
acid?
Betulinic.
Betulinic.
Betulinic. Thank you. I have not been able to say that word from the get-go. Thank you. And I said it like 6 times before I started, and I said it right, and I was like, okay, whatever. So, which is found in the bark of the birch tree and eucalyptus tree, which has strong inflammatory properties. So, microalgae or phytoplankton is a broad term to use to describe this microscopic photosynthetic single celled organism found in salt or fresh water. It's estimated that there's over 800,000 different microalgae species found around the world. For our research, we used carefully selected proprietary blend of 3 strains based on research around their potential health benefits, as well as the bioactive compounds they contain. So what are bioactive compounds? They're molecules that play an active role in the body and have a positive effect on the overall health. In the case of our strains, these bioactive compounds included nutrients like vitamins, minerals, proteins, antioxidants, and carotenoids. So the 3 that we use is Chlorella vulgaris, Nanochloropsis, and tetrasil see Tetrasyllamus chewy. I doesn't matter. You guys can read it.
Tetraselmis?
Tetraselmis chewy. You got it.
Thank you. Tetrasyllamus chewy. It's so crazy. And the more intense I feel, the worse I get. So it doesn't matter. I feel like I'm talking to friends, so it's all good. My hypothesis was that the anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory compounds found in these extracts of the substances of the microalgae and chaga would be toxic to cancer cells, it's called cytotoxic, and thus be beneficial for the overall well-being of our animals. A big part of the reason I got to this line of thinking was because of my extensive training with a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine and medicinal mushrooms in general, and looked at the idea of finding mushrooms that best mimic the characteristics in specific cancer types. So this is really important. I'm going to just stop here for 2 seconds and talk about this, because there's a lot of mushroom information that's going on. So I wanted to stop for a couple of seconds and just quickly talk about, there's so much work in Chinese medicine with mushrooms. Mushrooms are becoming a massive household name. So I was really lucky, and I used medicinal mushrooms in cancer all the time in chronic disease at my practice. But I was very lucky because I was trained by a traditional Chinese medicine doctor from China. And I spent about 3 years with him. And the way he taught me was, it's called the doctrine of signatures, or the characteristics, which means you look at the tumor and you look at the physiology of the cancer, and you try to match the mushroom with that. So not just like beta glucans and triterpenes and all of that stuff. What does it look like? How does it grow? Where does it grow? What does it eat? What is it like? All of this stuff. So I had to know these mushrooms intimately from the mushroom's character and then try and match the physiology and how those tumors grew and how that cancer produced in the body. So the reason that I chose chaga, and I'll show you in a second, um, but I really felt like I knew what chaga did. I knew what turkey tail does. I know what lion's mane. I mean, I know what all of these mushrooms do. But I really felt like you look at all this cancer research, and to me, there had to be something in nature that was more synergistic that could work in combination with the mushrooms to take it to a deeper cellular level, or to basically move it into the cells, or use it as a carrier, some way that wasn't that wasn't synthetic or wasn't, I was just looking for something that would work together. And I also really worked a lot with phytoplankton in my practice with chronic disease. So I really felt like those two, especially being ancient, right? Like there's nothing that's lived as long as phytoplankton and mushrooms. They're the two most ancient um, species in the world. The ocean covered the earth. And then once there was and then the first thing that grew on earth were mushrooms. So it's a it was a very the my hypothesis was, yes, from a physiological perspective, could it take this great benefits from these mushrooms, but how could we get it even to work deeper? So here we go. So this is a chaga mushroom, and this is what I'm trying to explain to you guys, how I was trained. So for anyone that has seen a chaga mushroom, it literally grows out of the tree. And the inside of the tree, it starts to decay and feed off the inside of the tree. So when you look at this and then you look at osteosarcoma, they are so similar, it is beyond belief. And as with Henry, it starts to eat the bone and break down the bone so that then they get something called a pathological fracture, because the bone literally isn't strong enough and it just breaks. So it was one of the reasons that I chose chaga, because I knew when I was working with Dal, one of the cells that I absolutely was the most important for me to look at was osteosarcoma. So it's the reason why I chose chaga. So as you can see here, and that's basically what I just said. So the two combined, and then creating the synergistic effect to work on the cancer cell. Another really important part that influenced my research was maintaining the intellectual property. And that's because I wanted to be sure that whatever ingredients, natural ingredients that we use, like I said, my goal in life is to protect animals and all animals, which is included in the environment, right? Included in our in our world, in the earth. So I wanted to make sure that no matter how this went, that I would be able to navigate what ingredients, where they came from, where they collected and harvested ethically, and so on and so forth. So the first phase of the research was designed to see if different chaga microalgae extracts were cytotoxic to different cancer cell lines. Different methods were used to extract the active compound, chaga microalgae blends, and then they were tested on different human and canine cancer cells. So when I said it was a mammalian study, this is one of the journals that we were published in, where it says synergistic cytotoxicity of extracts of chaga mushroom microalgae against mammalian cancer cells in vitro. So it was going to be hard to get published, they felt, because a lot of publications are one species, like a rat or a horse, a dog, a person, whatever. And this was canine and human. So um, then they were tested on the different lines that we got and to see if it altered cell viability. So more simply put, they were applied to the cell cultures to see if the cells would live or die. Whoops. So the first step was to prepare test extracts of chaga and microalgae to concentrate the bioactive compounds. Different extraction methods were tested to see what would be most effective. Briefly, the active ingredients was combined with an extraction liquid, water, or ethanol, and different treatments were applied to extract the active compounds. The treatments included simple mixing, ultrasonication, and the application of high pressure through a process called supercritical fluid extraction. I keep looking down because I keep thinking I have to use my board. So the bioactive compound analysis resulted in 5 different ones with the chaga extract and 3 different microalgae extracts. The extracts were analyzed for phenolic acid, flavonoids, and triterpenes. The results, as expected, were a variety of the amount of bioactive compound changed depending on the extraction, liquid, and process used. So, for example, the triterpene levels were the highest in chaga extracted from the supercritical extraction. The concentrations and compositions were different between chaga and microalgae. In the table on the right, the extracts beginning with MH are chaga, and the GL extracts are microalgae. Now you're going to be able to go back and look at these. It's going to take too long for me to go through, and it is relevant, but it's not that relevant. It's not that relevant to this lecture is what I'm trying to say, because really what I want to show you is what we came up with and how we got there. To see if the cytotoxicity of chaga mushroom and microalgae extracts was to see if the chaga and the microalgae extracts had cytotoxic properties against different cancer cell lines. Experiment was done with different dosages of the extracts were applied to 5 different human and canine cancer cells. So human breast epithelial adenocarcinoma, human hepatocellular carcinoma, human osteosarcoma, canine osteosarcoma, and canine histiocytosis. So this graph, am I still? Yeah, okay, good. So the cytotoxicity of chaga mushroom extract. This graph shows the cell viability, the ability of the cell to survive of the different cancer cell lines when treated with different chaga extracts at different concentrations. So we first looked at the cell lines with just chaga, and then we'll show you just phytoplankton. In most of the graphs, you can see that the concentration of chaga extract increases the number of living cancers. The number of living cancer cells decreased. So the cancer cells started to die. The sugar-free ethanol extract showed that the highest level of cytotoxicity, so the highest level of killing cancer cells, it significantly inhibited the cell growth at concentrations as low as 50 UG/ml in human osteosarcoma cells and showed strong cytotoxicity against all the other cell lines at 100 UG/ml and 300 UG/ml. The same work was done using microalgae. The ethanol extract showed the lowest cytotoxicity against all cancer cell lines, especially human osteosarcoma and human liver carcinoma. We removed the chlorophyll from the phytoplankton. It resulted in better cytotoxicity against all cell lines. The sugar-free chlorophyll-free extract showed greater dose-dependent cytotoxicity than the other extracts. So you can see why this was over 5 years, almost six and a bit now, is that literally we had to look at each one of these compounds and each one of these extracts and try and figure out how we could, I guess, manipulate it or find out which compounds were doing what. And Basantha took out the chlorophyll to be able to see better, and lo and behold, it started working even phenomenally better. So the cytotoxicity of the chaga mushroom and microalgae conclusion, in almost all cases, cell viability decreased when we increased the dosage of the extract. So in simple terms, when we increased the amount of the extract, more cancer cells were destroyed. Chaga extract selective cytotoxicity against cancer cells. So as part of the research, we not only wanted to test how these extract acted on cancer cells, but we also wanted to see how they acted on healthy cells. Now, guys, this is, if you're going to go away with anything here, this is probably one of the most important parts of the entire lecture. Because we all know what happens when we have used chemotherapy or when we've used things that are extremely toxic. They kill cancer cells, but they also kill the healthy cells almost at the same rate. So it's, some are better, some are not as, like, some are more intense, some are less intense. But in general, that is the big concern about using chemotherapy type or even radiation or anything that is used in oncology. So to test to see if the chaga extract would selectively inhibit cancer cell growth, the two chaga extracts were tested to ensure that the chaga extracts wouldn't also kill healthy cells. Two supercritical chaga extracts were chosen. Healthy breast cells and breast cancer cells were treated with the different concentrations of the two extracts for 24 hours to check cell viability. At 300 and 500 UGULs of the extract, healthy cells demonstrated higher viability. Healthy breast cell proliferation remained high even at high concentrations of the extract, even though these doses were toxic to the cancer cell lines. So that's huge. And like, again, you'll be able to go over this stuff, when we send you the 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 files. So chaga extract selective toxicity against cancer cells. Same work was also done in human canine osteosarcoma cells. So osteosarcomas, again, one of the most common bone cancers in large and giant breed dogs, Rottweilers, Labradors, Retrievers, Great Danes, St. Bernards. It's an aggressive cancer. I don't have to tell you anymore. I already talked to you about this. The most common and effective treatments are amputation and chemotherapy, but it's still a very, very, very short, their survival time is really short. And it's very, very painful. The current treatment options for canine osteosarcoma are limited, so it was important for me to study these cells. So according to the Canadian, and this is why I said this is really, really important for you guys to leave with. And this part was when I came in, and when we figured this out, I remember coming into Dalhousie and everybody was so excited about this. According to the Canadian Cancer Society, one of the biggest challenges in cancer research is finding treatments that kill cancer cells while leaving the surrounding normal cells intact. At the highest concentrations, our extracts selectively killed cancer cells while the healthy cell survival rate was steady at 70%, which is really amazing. So we learned that osteosarcoma cells are killed selectively by chaga extracts, meaning that they are more vulnerable to the extract than the healthy cells. Osteosarcoma cell growth was inhibited at higher concentrations, extract concentrations. These concentrations were toxic to cancer cells. Suggests that chaga extracts could potentially be used in the treatment of canine osteosarcoma. So this is just a picture of it, sort of like targeting and understanding that the cancer cells are much more vulnerable than the healthy cells to chaga extract. So because of chaga, so now we wanted to find out the synergistic effect of the two. So better together. because chaga and microalgae contain different bioactive compounds, we wanted to see if they had a synergistic effect on the cancer cells. Synergy is when the combination of two things produced a combined effect greater than the sum of their own separate effects. So chaga and microalgae extracts were combined in different ratios to see if they had a synergistic effect. We used human breast epithelial cancer, adenocarcinoma, human hepatocellular carcinoma, human osteosarcoma, and canine osteosarcoma. The supercritical sugar-free chaga and supercritical sugar-free chlorophyll microalgae were chosen because they showed the greatest anti-cancer effect when tested individually. Cancer cells responded with a dose-dependent effect to the different tested combinations. In a ratio of 1 to 1, the combination had literally no benefits, visible benefits. 4 to 1 and 1 to 4 chaga microalgae combinations showed the highest amount of synergy, and the effects were almost identical between the ratios for all the cancer types, which was, for me, unbelievably exciting because when we looked at them individually, they were different. When we combined them, they basically were effective with every single different kind of cell line that we used. Um, so why this is really interesting was, okay, so let me just read. Our primary goal with this portion of the research was to see the effects of of extracts on canine cancer cells and to see how natural extracts would work on different cells. We expanded it to view different cell lines to assess the effectiveness of the different extracts. What we found was that the chaga mushroom microalgae extract shows strong anti-cancer activities against human and canine cell lines, leading us to conclude that chaga and microalgae extracts show strong anti-cancer potentials against certain cancer cell lines. The study using canine osteosarcoma cells showed the dose response of the extracts. Some extracts showed selective cytotoxicity to cancer cells when compared to normal healthy cells. Importantly, one of this is canine osteosarcoma. We learned that osteosarcoma cells are killed selectively by chaga extract, which is really incredible. Knowing this, we tested the combinations of chaga microalgae extract to check for synergy against different cell lines. We found that at certain ratios, combining the two extracts was more effective against cancer cells than using individual extracts. The combinations of the extracts of chaga mushroom and microalgae exhibited potential for developing natural cytotoxic agents against various cancer cells, so developing something that will fight against cancer. Now, what I found really incredibly interesting with this is that, this is a university, these are incredible scientists, and the whole time during this, it was like these natural ingredients were not just like, okay, well, if we put, 50 50 mLs, it's not even remotely those kind of measurements of chaga, and we super dosed 50 mLs of microalgae, it's going to even be stronger, right? No, these natural compounds told us how they needed to be, how they worked together, how they became a powerhouse, how they did that magic, right? It was the scientists and looking at it and trying all of these different things, but it was at the end of the day, it's actually those two ingredients knowing how they need to work together in order to help cells survive. So it's like how I said that every living thing out there is programmed to survive. It's like these two natural ingredients are programmed and know how to work in synergy to create that. So the second part of the project was designed to examine the anti-inflammatory effects of two extracts, one from chaga and one from microalgae. The chaga extract from the previous study was used, as was chlorophyll-free microalgae extract, and the same extract showed strong synergy in the previous study. This study used a marine mouse microphage cell model. This is the journal that we were, the peer-reviewed journal that we were published in about the anti-inflammatory effects of this. Now, why is this exciting? Because this is the part that I talked about when we're thinking about how do we prevent chronic disease? How do we prepare the body to be able to know what to do when a cancer cell, raises its head within our bodies and within our animals' bodies. So determine if chaga extract could reduce markers of inflammation, different concentrations were combined with macrophages, however you want to say macrophages. Pro-inflammatory markers equals substances that indicate inflammation, such as cytokines and acute phase proteins. Cytokines are signaling proteins that help control inflammation in the body. Macrophages is a type of white blood cell that surrounds and kills microorganisms, removes dead cells, and stimulates the action of other immune cells. After 24 hours of incubation with the extracts, the macrophages were treated to induce inflammation. The levels of the inflammatory markers IL-6, TNF, alpha, and COX-2, the most commonly tested biomarkers for inflammation, as well as the anti-inflammatory cytokine IL-4 were measured in the cell media. So what did we find out? That chaga extract reduces pro-inflammatory biomarkers. Very effective at suppressing IL-6, TNFA at high concentrations. Effective against COX-2 only at the highest concentration that we tested. Levels of IL-4 increased with the extract concentration, but the results were not statistically significant. Chaga extract was effective at reducing 3 common markers of inflammation when used in high doses. May also increase anti-inflammatory markers, but more research is needed to confirm this, which we have done and we are doing, and we're going to be talking about that in a minute. But all of this stuff that I'm using, COX-2 and IL-6 and TNFA, those are all things that we want to try and work with as cancer prevention. So chaga extract reduced pro-inflammatory biomarkers. There you go. Microalgae extract reduced pro-inflammatory biomarkers. It was effective against IL-6 even at low concentrations. TNFA was suppressed at concentrations of 100 UG/ml or greater, effective against COX-2 at the highest concentrations. Levels of IL-4 increased with extract concentrations, but it wasn't statistically significant. The microalgae extract was effective at reducing 3 common markers of inflammation, one even at low concentrations. May also increase anti-inflammatory markers, but more research, which again we are doing. So, and here these are just graphs showing how they did it and what they did and at what concentrations. So, what these results are telling us is the goal of the second part of the project was to look at the anti-inflammatory effects of chaga and microalgae. This research shows that chaga and microalgae extracts can significantly reduce the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines by macrophages that have been treated to induce inflammation. When used at the highest concentrations, these extracts can also reduce the cellular level of COX-2 in the macrophage model. The reduction of inflammatory markers could help us to significantly improve the overall health and well-being of our animals. We know that pro-inflammatory cytokines, inflammation, free radicals, etc., increase the risk of cancer. So by addressing these in the body, we hope that it will help reduce cell trauma and the reactionary cancer cell growth, because that's what's happening. The cells are reacting to something else that's happening. If we can try and reduce cell trauma, and it will help the reactionary cell of cancer cell growth. It should. Well, we've shown that it does. So what's next? So further research on these extracts is being conducted in partnership with Dalhousie University. A preclinical trial is underway and involves administering chaga mushrooms and microalgae extract to mice to determine if the in vitro results we've generated thus far can be replicated in an animal model. Results of this work are expected to be completed in early 2025. The next stage will be live dog trials and hopefully a treatment for veterinarians to use in practice with cancer patients. So I want to just kind of explain that quickly. And before I go any farther, for those people out there that have never seen my business partner, Dion Albert, he's the one in the white shirt. And if it wasn't for him, uh, this wouldn't be happening. So he is the best partner I've ever, business partner I could even dream of. And he knows that this is my wheelhouse and he supports me 1,000,000%. And not a lot of business partners would go to the expense and the blood, sweat, and tears that Adored Beast goes through in order to do this, because really what it is it's research to try and help animals. And um, he's phenomenal. Even though he's a business guru, he is 100% on board with what we're doing and supports me to do this all the way. So I don't want anyone to not know that he's doing that, because he's incredible. Um, Okay, so that's it. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And it wasn't too bad as far as trying to fly through it. So let's see. So I'm sure we have
We have a few
uh
questions.
yeah, I'm sure we have lots of questions.
Yeah, some questions here that we still have in the Q&A are more like direct to some case, some they are asking questions about I'm sorry. Oh my God. They're asking questions about their pets, so I'm not asking those today. Maybe we can discuss another session just to address these kind of questions. But we had some questions here in the Q&A asking about, so okay, the research is about chaga and you are putting together chaga and phytoplankton and to see the results. So can I, on my own, and I know that you talk about dosages and extracts and stuff like that, but maybe we can explain a little better, make it clear if it's possible if I have a pet with cancer, can I give chaga and phytoplankton? Can I combine those together by myself and give it to them? It will have the same effect, the same results as in the research.
The last part of the presentation, we talked a lot about reducing pro-inflammatory cytokines. So there's two things that are happening with this research. One is trying to develop things that are preventative, that help with chronic disease, trying to develop things that reduce this pro-inflammatory situation that's in the body. Um, and that is sort of like one part of this research that's really important, so that we can move forward and continue to research how do we support the body to um, reduce inflammation and reduce all these biomarkers that we know are precursors to cancer, and we know that slows down the body's ability to fight the cancer cells, or slows down the body's ability to recover from and know how to handle the cancer cells. So that's one part. And then the other part is going to go on, which is going to be hopefully a treatment for veterinarians, so that if your dog does have cancer, or hopefully even when we go farther into it, it'll be other species. But if your dog does have cancer, your veterinarian will be able to use this treatment and it won't have the side effects. It will be a much more um uh it'll be a treatment that will give them quality of life rather than not quality of life. But I am going to talk to that question because I knew I was going to get it, right? I knew I was going to get that question. So when Henry got sick, I was giving him really high doses of turkey tail in our phytosynergy because of turkey tail's affinity and what turkey tail looks like and its physiological perspective and how it feels. I was focused on turkey tail with for prostate cancer and possibly cancer in his colon. So using the turkey tail and the phytoplankton, he no longer has that tumor in his prostate, that prostate tumor. Um, and he didn't show any signs quite quickly, actually, within probably 3 months, he didn't show any signs of his prostate issue at all. Had I known that that this issue with his leg was potentially osteosarcoma, I probably would have um, alternated chaga and or I might have just used chaga. I don't know. But I still feel maybe in a way that it was a good thing that I didn't know because I have a video of Henry like a month before he died running up the side of a bank that if I known that that was in his leg, I probably wouldn't have allowed him to have the freedom that I did allow him to have, and I probably wouldn't. So, everything happens for reasons. But what is important about this? Using chaga and phytoplankton, using turkey tail and phytoplankton is going to have benefits, right? And we know that there's benefits. We know there's benefits to it. That's why we have them, right? That's why Adored Beast chooses that specific chaga and how we make the tinctures and we choose that proprietary blend of phytoplankton and how it's grown. So using that, basically a long story around this, using those products is going to be helpful for anything. I think it's going to be helpful for chronic disease, trying to help prevent chronic disease, decrease inflammation. And if an animal is struggling with cancer, I think it will help to allow the body that it will focus on the inflammatory response so the body knows how to focus on the cancer cells, right? The difference is, and what we're researching more and more now from the preventative side of chronic disease and reducing all of these biomarkers is the exact concentrations. Because as we saw in this research, it's really important. It's like knowing the concentrations through science, through looking at, me. It's like I am a science nerd, but I also feel like nature knows more than we do and ever will. So looking in a lab and going, okay, well, the phytoplankton and the chaga are clearly telling us at what ratios this needs to happen, and what extraction process is the most beneficial. And it's a lot of work and it was a lot of information. And like I said, the scientists were incredible. And Dr. Vasantha is brilliant. And we spent, I shouldn't say hours, I mean 5 years of discussing our next steps and what do we think this meant. And you know, more hypothesis and more hypothesis and then proving that hypothesis, right? So, yeah, so that answers our question. I hope that answers the question. Do you think it did?
I think it did, in a way, yes.
Okay.
There's here another question. People are asking about concentrations. Donna Frazo is asking here, can you comment on why a combo of 4-1 or 1-4 both work with CM and MA? Or maybe this is more a Jenna's question.
Where is it? I'm just
It's
trying to look
it's
at
more in the end.
Yeah,
the
Julie,
end
I
of the
think they're
question.
asking why positive effects were seen with both the 1-to-4 ratio and the 4-to-1 ratio.
Okay, can you comment on why a combination? You know what? I can't. Can you, Jenna?
I
I
can. I see Vasantha is here as well.
Oh, is he? Oh, great.
So if I Vasantha, if you can hear me, if I mess this up, please feel free to jump in. Um, but essentially, like both the chaga and the phytoplankton have a variety of natural compounds in them, and some compounds can work well together and some compounds can't. So it's quite possible that at those intermediate ratios, um, you're kind of getting some canceling out of beneficial effects of the natural compounds. Whereas at the more polar ends of the ratios, the 1-to-4 and the 4-to-1, the active compounds are actually able to better interact within the body.
Yeah, okay, I see what they're asking.
Yep.
I thought they were asking more like, did we see something specific in the data of why that happened? But
Mm.
I would totally agree. And Vasantha, if you want to say something too to that, I don't know if he does or not. Oh, there he is.
Hi, Julie. Just
Hi.
back from the gym. The
Oi.
question is that the effect of the 4-to-1 and 1-to-4 compared to the other ratios we tried, 1-to-1, 2-to-1, and 1-to-1. I think the reason is that the dose effect. So if you have one of the cytotoxic compounds at the correct amounts, it is effect is higher, and the effect is complemented by the second compound. So that's what we think what is happening in these cell-based assays. We try to see which combination is more effective in terms of the synergism. So
Yeah.
that's the reason I believe why either 1-to-4 or 4-to-1 is better than other ratios.
Yeah, and I think what Jenna said is is true too, right? And that's why I get all like, nature bound when it comes to stuff like this because I do believe that I feel like Jenna said, they have different compounds, right? So it's like certain things complement and other things kind of like it's too much, right? Like that's why, when I say supersizing isn't always better. It's how I formulate everything. I never supersize anything. I look at every ingredient that I put in every single formula, how it works, how it grows in nature, and how it would work with the other ingredients in the formulas. So yeah, so when Jenna was saying that, I think that it's all of that for sure. Do you want to ask anything with which other ones?
I was muted, sorry. There
Oh,
is one
sorry.
that that it's not here anymore. I think someone answered, but I think it was a good one for everyone to hear. Actually, it's a simple one. Who is funding this research?
Oh, did someone actually asked that?
Yes.
Well, Adored Beast. Um, Adored Beast, we put together something called Dragonfly Research. And because, as soon as I started doing this, Dion said, okay, well, now I know. Now you've got now you're working with Vasantha and Dal and Jenna and everything. He's like, this is not going to end. So we created a company for research called Dragonfly Research. And for the first, I don't know, Vasantha would be able to answer this. I think for the first 2 or 3 years, um, or 2 years, we funded it fully. ABA funded it fully. And then we started getting grants for it. So, when as the research progressed and started showing things, then we started getting grants. But even with grants, we have to match the grants, right? So a grant puts in so much and we have to put in that equal amount. Um, there's one, can Julie provide some more clarity on what she considers high dose for this
Yeah.
of us use cancer? So I had Henry on the large dog dose of turkey tail. So I had him on, he was 80 pounds. So I had him on, well, I gave him 2 full eyedroppers 3 times a day to start. And then I went up to 6 full eyedroppers 3 times a day. So a lot. And phytoplankton, I gave him a 16th of a teaspoon 5 times a day. So he was getting a lot of both of those.
There is an anonymous question here. When do you expect that a product with the proper ratios and processing will be commercially available? Will the in vivo study only be in dogs with cancers, or will there be an opportunity for those that are trying to prevent cancer to take part in the study?
Can you show me that again? Where is that?
It's
Oh, right here. When do you expect a product with
yeah.
proper ratios and processing will be commercially available? So, again, if we come out with a product based on some of this research, that product is going to be focused on the pro and like the reducing biomarkers, right? Reducing inflammation, um, reducing pro-inflammatory cytokines, things like that. And, we have to be very careful of how we, this is a big, cancer is a big thing. And I always like to just say that again, the way I look at cancer more like I look at chronic disease. And I look at chronic disease as acute diseases that have been suppressed. So an itchy ear that is suppressed and suppressed and given steroids and given steroids and ketoconazole. What the body's actually doing is it's going, hello, 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 I have inflammation. Hello, hello, hello. Like, or hot spots. Like, I mean, it sounds very minimal, but, or bladder infections, or chronic diarrhea, or, with kitties, chronic vomiting or chronic diarrhea. I mean, often inflammatory bowel disease turns into feline lymphoma. So, I feel like cancer from a pathological perspective, so we're not talking like DNA and things like that, but the increase in cancer in animals, I feel has something to do with us not paying attention to what causes those biomarkers, to going, oh, he's just got diarrhea, we're just going to throw him on some antibiotics. Oh, she's got another bladder infection. Let's just put her on no more antibiotics. Oh, this is happening. Let's give her a steroid. Let's give her an immune suppressive drug. So all of those symptoms are symptoms of inflammation. All of those symptoms are symptoms that there's free radicals that are scavenging. There are, not enough antioxidants. There's not enough. We're not providing that animal or that person or whatever with enough nutrition or enough tools or enough support in order for it to be able to um, derail those biomarkers and that inflammation so that if it goes into an initiative state where the cancer cells start to produce, the body goes, hey, okay, all of these, all of the stuff that that I'm getting is taking care of this inflammatory response. So now I can pay attention to derailing or dealing with these cancer cells. So when we produce products and when we do start to produce products, those products are going to hopefully we can show the science that those products do that they give that support in order to decrease those biomarkers that we know are precursors to chronic disease and cancer. So, to answer your question, I have to be very careful what I say. And I would never say that I'm going to cure cancer because I'm not, I would never even think that. Like I've always said, if this treatment goes into veterinary hands, it's to try and extend life and extend and in that extension be quality life. And then from a prevention perspective, I want to prevent chronic disease and suffering. And if cancer falls in that, great, right? But I can't say that, and I'm not, but because honestly, at the end of the day, when you look at it, to me, it's all the same thing. It is all one in the same thing. Every disease to me is very similar. It has what we say in homeopathy, it's got the same thread. It has the same characteristics. They have similar characteristics and then they take on their own life. But it starts out with this characteristic of not being able to deal with this chronic inflammatory response and the constant bombarding of, not having proper food and being subjected to, all the things that Rodney and Karen wrote that book, Forever Dog. There's a ton of stuff in there as prevention from a perspective of what you can do with food and things like that. And then what I'm trying to do, they're giving tools and all that kind of stuff for that, which is amazing. What I'm trying to do is create the science behind, does this ingredient and does this do this? Can I actually say that I know for a fact that, science showing this, so that when I formulate it, I feel that I am doing the very best that I can possibly do on this planet to create something that will help to decrease those biomarkers. When I started Leaky Gut Protocol, the reason I started Leaky Gut Protocol was you know, lots of things create suffering. And I have seen some pretty suffering allergy dogs. I've seen some dogs and cats too, and horses that have terrible quality of life and suffer for years and years and years and years and years with allergies. And I was shocked when a vet she was the largest, I think she was the head vet for the SPCA in the United States, and said that the number one reason for elected euthanasia was skin disease, and the number one cause of death was cancer. So more animals were the number one reason an animal was being, taken to the SPCA and given up and then euthanized or elected euthanasia was like disease-wise, was allergies, was skin disease. So, to me, that's suffering. So if I can create and do R&D and and find science to decrease that suffering, that is exactly what I want to do. So if we want to call that commercially available, yes, of course, things are going to be in proper ratios based on science that we're doing. Uh, and so, hope that answers. Will it be us to only be with dogs with cancer, or will there be an opportunity trying to prevent cancer? Yeah, I mean, Jenna is part of a study that I'm trying to do right now with a different kind of probiotic, and there's a potential for animals taking part in different studies as we go along.
Right. There, right below, like there's a question from James. I'm not asking all the question because it goes to the all the testing that we haven't started yet, but did you test different sources of chaga and algae to determine the highest viable sources? And if so, where did you find these sources? I like this question because probably um, it will address some of our values too. So that's why I think it's interesting for you to answer.
Yeah, and possibly Jenna and Vasantha can answer the amounts that we did for the mouse study. I don't know the exact mLs or mgs. I know that it was fed, but um, when it comes to chaga and algae, we didn't. We used the chaga and we used the phytoplankton that I've been using for a really, really long time. And for me, being the person that I am and doing the study the way that I wanted to do the study, was that I felt like I couldn't use anything that was detrimental to nature. Because to me, that's an oxymoron. If you take something that has been traumatized, if you take an herb, if you take a plant, if you take some food, if you take whatever, they have cells, we know that plants communicate. We know trees communicate with each other. We know soil can communicate. We know bacteria can communicate. If we take a mushroom, if we take an ingredient that has been traumatized, environmentally traumatized, I'm going to say personal, that's just because that's who I am. My personal opinion is that that is not going to that is not going to have the medicinal effect. That's something that is grown in nature and respected and ethically sourced and ethically harvested, etc. So, the answer is no, because I am, and that's one of the reasons why I worked so hard with this and Dalhousie to maintain that, is the part of that IP is because I wanted to be sure that wherever this research went from start to finish, is that we always maintained our integrity when it came to um, the ethics of getting that phytoplankton and that chaga.
Thanks. Carol is asking here, is hemangiosarcoma, I think, I'm hoping I said it correctly, included in the research?
No, but Carol, there's a really, really, Penn State University did a phenomenal, I think in 2012, hemangiosarcoma study with turkey tail mushroom. So, there's lots of information about that out there. I used it a ton with hemangiosarcoma in my practice. Um, and again, I was concerned that Henry might get something like hemangio. So it's one of the reasons why I did use turkey tail. Because when he had this tumor on his prostate, he was sore, abdominally, we did ultrasounds and everything, and there wasn't anything on his spleen, but, he was quite inflamed all in that area from straining so much to try to defecate, because he literally couldn't defecate. His prostate was so big. So, there's already a ton of research out there on hemangiosarcoma, and I think I think it's don't quote me, but I think it's more than 70%. That study was more than 70% uh, successful in hemangiosarcoma than any conventional treatment.
Thank you. Will the dogs selected for the canine trials? I mean, they are not selected yet, right? I don't know if we're on that stage yet or not, but
No, the
we're
canine
not.
trials, if they go to a university, they'll probably, I don't know what they'll be in charge. The university will be in charge
Okay.
of what dogs are used.
Okay, so we don't even know if it will be they will have to be placed in a special diet, or we?
They're always placed on a special, even the mice were. It has to be a controlled study, right? So it's very, very, very controlled so that they can make sure that everything is exactly the same to get proper data.
Does Carol also is asking, the other question was from Maria, and this one again from Carol. Does Canadian Cancer Society also doing this research or work with you on this research?
No.
What's your
I sort of wanted to be a lone wolf with this, right? I didn't really want, not that I wouldn't, like I just really felt like some of my ideas, that's what I'm saying, like Vasantha and Jenna, and Dion and all the researchers that worked with me, are godsends because I drove them crazy because, I really wanted to look at this. I wanted to do it by the book and in the box and exactly how we have to do it. But I wanted to do it. I wanted to come to the table with all my hypotheses and all my ideas and try to be able to put those together and not worry about it, right? I just wanted to be able to do it how I wanted to do it.
we have time for at least two more questions?
Yeah.
Do you think so? Okay. Annette here is asking, what's your perspective on cancer being genetic or environmentally based? I think it's also part of what you said at the beginning, but
I think I think everything has a genetic predisposition, right? So I used to say this even about leaky gut, and I feel it's exactly the same with cancer. Is that I feel like it's the same with all chronic disease. I think that we all have a genetic predisposition, but I feel like it can be exacerbated, it can be sped up, it can be made worse, it can be, can you switch genetics? I mean, we know we're doing a lot of work around there's tons and tons of work around changing genetics and things, but people can change their genetics and genetics can change. So, but I think that what happens is, like, I just use like German Shepherds with hip dysplasia as an example, or I use golden retrievers with lymphosarcoma, or I use it whatever, King Charles Spaniels with cardiomyopathy, like the list goes on and on and on, collapsing trachea with Chihuahuas. When there's chronic inflammation in the body, whatever that predisposition is, if it was going to maybe rear its ugly head when they're 16 years of age, it can rear its ugly head when they're 3 years of age. Young, really young. So we know that there's certain breeds that are more susceptible to cancer and things like that. But is that I think what I want to say about that too is I've been doing this for a very long time, like over 30 years, and my entire life I've been involved with dogs with rescue. And I always go back to when I was 20 years old, our big dogs were living till they were 17 and 18 years of age. So, and we didn't see the cancer that we see today. And when we look at wolves, when I did the wolf probiotic, we don't see the cancers that we see in dogs. Our dogs have a scary amount of cancer. Like the pre are, to say that more than one in every two dogs will get cancer is pretty concerning. And it didn't take very long. Like I was assisting in vet clinics when I was 9 years old, right? Going in and cleaning kennels and doing things like that. worked doing, all kinds of stuff like that for a really long time and was around, like I said, around tons of dogs. And you hardly ever saw a dog get cancer, when I was young, and that's not like 200 years ago. That's a very short time that we're seeing our dogs die very early from cancer, get cancer, and not live very long, like really not live very long. So, do I believe that animals are, I also believe that animals are born with those biomarkers now. I feel like the guts of our dogs, unless the mother's gut, unless that dog came from, you know, um, from a long term, like 10 years of raw feeding or something, right? Like 10 years of uh, being bred raw fed or something like that, that they're born with a very, very compromised microbiome because of what we feed them and all different things with dogs. So they're born with that predisposition of having those biomarkers right from the get-go, right? So that's why gut health is phenomenally important, right? To be able to make sure that we're addressing it at root, addressing inflammation at root cause, and then adding things in that we know specifically are targeting that. Someone says, will this treatment eventually be available for cats? Well, I'm hoping that
Fantastic.
if it goes to where it needs to go, that it'll be for everything. Um, but anything that we're going to produce from a perspective of a commercialized product to help reduce the effects of inflammation and try and target these biomarkers, they will be for dogs and for cats.
Amazing. I have one question that it's more like a personal one. It's not here in the Q&A. So how has this research influenced your own approach to caring for animals, and if did any of your findings surprise or changed your perspective on pet health or even on treatment for chronic diseases and even cancer? How did the research change you, or if changed you, or it just
Well,
like
I think, you know what it did? I think it confirmed.
okay.
So I think that, like I said, my whole life I've been a bit of a hippie and felt like nature provides everything for us. And but then I've always had this science piece where I'm highly respect science. And I always wanted to try and fall in that in between where I maintain that philosophy of what I've always had with nature, but then be able to prove it, right? Prove some of it. I even say to, I've said this to Vasantha and to Jenna, it's like we're looking for very specific things, triterpenes, beta glucans, polyphenols. We're looking at these things. There are things in chaga and phytoplankton that I will be long dead, and maybe never will we have the equipment to even be able to isolate the healing properties of natural things, right? We just we will just never know. So I feel like uh I feel like this science is giving us at least some backing, not just some, lots of backing, like to go like, look at this. We're not just thinking this up. We're not just, so I think that how it's changed my life or changed how my approach with animals is it's just, I've always had this confidence, especially in my vet hospitals, because I always would say, yeah, well, give me science, but the empirical proof means everything to me. the amount of animals coming in and like hemangiosarcoma, we had cases of hemangiosarcoma going on for, removing the tumor or even leaving the spleen in and then going 5, 6 years longer, cats with kidney disease living, saying 3 months to live, living seven more years. That was not magic. That was the norm at my practice. That was the norm. But I didn't have science to back it. I had empirical proof to back it. But in order for us to be taken even more seriously, we need to embrace the science part so that, it becomes more mainstream, and vets aren't so afraid to use it, that they feel more confident because it will be in their toolbox because it'll be accepted in their field, right? So, yeah,
Amazing.
and knowing that Henry lived a year and a half, with something this intense, I mean, I'm still a mess and can hardly still work, but uh, I have to keep going back to that and looking at that and going, it's unheard of a year and a half, and it's no coincidence that is what he died from, the number one thing that I'm researching.
Mhm.
So, I really feel that, he changed my life too. Him and what he's teaching me.
Well, it's getting super late for us.
Yeah, and before I go, I want to thank Vasantha so much and Jenna so
Yes.
much for having my back because I don't feel like I'm 100% on my game right now. So for them to be here to support me in this means the world to me. Thank you guys so much.
Yes,
Um,
thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
so I know that we had a lot of questions, like I said before, more related to cancer than to the cancer research. So maybe we can try to do something, some AJA just about cancer, and then we may
yeah,
we may answer some of those questions. But
yeah, for sure. For sure.
but if you want to have your question answered before we do anything like that, you can also join our Facebook, our community on Facebook, the Adorbis Collective, and also send your questions to our customer service because they are amazing. They will certainly help you guys all. For those who were asking, we will be sharing the recording from today's webinar on our YouTube channel, probably tomorrow Thursday or by Friday at latest. So stay tuned. And everyone that attended today's webinar will also be getting the presentation. So you can also reread it and make sure that if you have any questions related to that, also please ask us. I want to thank you everyone that from our team that came today to help us. So Michelle, Emily, Kaylin, Jenna, and Vasanta. And obviously, I want to thank you, Julie, for being here today. I know that it was very hard for you to be here today, so I want to send you some extra thank you and warm virtual hugs from my side of the screen. I wish you all here who attended today a great night. Thank you for joining us. It was amazing. We have like a huge, huge attendance, so it was incredible. Thank you for all the support and all the love. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. You can sign up on our website to get all the information about Adore Beast, our promos, new blog postings, future Ask Julie Anything sessions, and all the other exciting things that are coming in our way this year. We are very excited about 2025. So
Yeah, and just like the cell, like people, I'm just reading some stuff still Like
Oh,
when
okay.
people say, what do you focus on the most? And I would say cells, right? Like making sure that your cells are healthy, your animal cells are healthy. So yeah, so that would be something that, when you're looking at things, not just looking at, the immune system in general, but what keeps the cell's integrity.
Amazing. Yes, that's indeed very important. Okay, thank you all again.
Hey, thank you very much.
I was very happy to
You.
kick off the year like this. So once again, thank you for supporting us.
Yeah.
Have a great night, and I wish you all an amazing 2025.
Bye,
Bye,
guys. Thanks.
everyone. Bye. Bye, Julie.